Hello and welcome to PGurus channel. I'm your host Sri Iyer. After a brief hiatus, I have the privilege of Professor Subhash Kak's company. Subhash ji, namaskar and welcome to PGurus channel.
Thank you, Sree. Wonderful to be back on your show.
Thank you, sir. And I decided that we have to have this hangout when I saw a couple of your tweets about the missing, what I would call as Gopuram in the Dravidiya temple architecture for the Konark temple. And this temple is, one word, if I have to describe it, majestic. I've been there once. I spent a day there, sir, and it is one of those phenomenal, achievements, archaeological achievements, because it's a temple which is for the sun god, and it is drawn by, I think, 12, what do you call those things? Wheels, 12 wheels, and each wheel has a 24 spokes arrangement. And not all wheels are still in full shape. There are only few that are in good shape. And if you look at it, it just blows your mind away. I'll give you a couple of things that, I went there about 25 years ago, and I still remember like yesterday, what are the things I experienced. First thing was, if you look at what was binding the big stones that comprise the architecture, they had molten iron. Molten iron had filled up the entire thing. So and my guide, took a magnet, and the magnet got pulled in for like 3 inches, and because that was rich in iron. And I believe that this was one of the few temples in India where the sun god, the murti, actually floated. They had a very intricate arrangement of magnets that made the murti to float. There were rumoredly 3 places. Somnath Lingam was one. This was the other, and I believe Chidambaram also had a floating Nataraja. How they figured this out, it's in itself an amazing thing. So you had mentioned a few things in your tweets, sir, about generally temple architecture. How did you come to the conclusion that this temple is missing its gopuram?
Well, this temple is built to the Nagar style.
Yes,
there are 3 ones: Nagar, Vesar, and the Dravid style.
Yes.
So in the Nagar style, you have a Shikhar.
Yes.
So apparently the Shikhar, which is next to the Jagamohan, which is still standing, which is what we normally call the Sun Temple,
Right.
Was still partly up in 1820, because we have a painting from that period which shows half of the Shikhar. So it's not a very huge thing. It can be very easily reconstructed. And I really urge Indian government and the Odisha government and the general public to do whatever they can to get this project going. And this is not something unique in the sense that it's not something that has not been done for other great monuments. An example that comes to mind is the world famous great Shiva temple in Indonesia called Prambanan. In the 1890s, it was all in ruins. The entire complex was in ruins. And then the Dutch, over the next few decades, put it all together. And now it's one of the great marvels of world architecture. So Konark Sun Temple should belong to the same category. And this Shikhar can be put together very quickly, maybe in just a few months' time. And they do need to take the best people who work on art and the architects, etc. And part of the ruins are already out there at the back. So I think that would be wonderful for so many different reasons. First of all, this was constructed by the Eastern Ganga king Narasimhadeva in 1250. And it has stood for a long time, and it's totally unique. The wheels are huge, and they connect us to the Surya Devata, and then it's the Jagamohan, which is the structure which is standing, is of course in the standard square style. In fact, that's how most temples were constructed on a square size with 49 or 81 sub-squares, which were assigned to various devatas. So it's wonderful. It's on the coast. It used to be a great beacon for travelers from the sea. In fact, the two temples that Europeans talked about in Odisha were Jagannath Puri, which is called the White Temple, and the Sun Temple, which is called the Black Temple. So there's no reason why this is not something which will unite the entire country together. Here is a positive project that we should all do for the sake of restoring India's great heritage, unparalleled in the world. Great heritage of architecture. Another example that I should tell you where similar reconstruction has taken place over many decades is Parthenon from Athens, and I've been there. And as you can see from the photographs taken over different intervals of time, how much it has changed. So I would really urge, I do want this to come back up. And I think that will be a wonderful, auspicious thing for the new India.
Absolutely, sir. And in one of my conversations with Padma Bhushan awardee Dr. Nagaswamy, he had mentioned that in a period of about 300 years, across the breadth of India, starting from Maharashtra all the way up to Odisha, each king tried to better the one that preceded him. And that's how you have, a series of even, I'm not sure if Ajanta Ellora also fall under this category, but it's right across it comes. And there was one other gentleman that I had the privilege of hosting, Professor Muhammad, KK Muhammad, and he had talked about his work in restoring, I think, 80 temples in the Bateshwar complex, which has still got 200 total. So there's 110 more to restore. It's a fantastic job. If you look at it, I don't know if you have time to listen to some of the hangouts. This was one of those hangouts that gave me a lot of satisfaction because he explains how he had this rubble and how he says, he had Lord Shiva come in his dreams and tell him some things, point him to go look here, go look there. It's just amazing the way that whole thing turned out, because it's impossible to reconstruct from all the rubble that was there and the ruins that were there. They do that. Sir, back to the Konark temple. You see, Odisha has, perhaps those are the two landmarks that people come there for. They come to Jagannath Puri temple, and Konarak is only like 45-50 kilometers, 1 hour, within 1 hour of Puri. And so it's like, if you want to go visit Odisha, definitely spend a couple of days, because you can spend 1 day at the temple and 1 day at Konark. And I also think that the government can promote tourism of temples along the coast, and we have some excellent temples starting from Kanyakumari at the southern tip and moving up. There is Tiruchendur Murugan temple, then there is the Shiva temple at Gangaikonda Sorapuram, which many people don't go because it is sort of kind of away from your mainline traffic in Tamil Nadu, but it's also a temple for Shiva that Rajendra Chola built. Then you have a couple of other temples working your way up, and then of course you could finish it at Konark. The positive energy for this is immense, because we are all going back and rediscovering our heritage, and I think putting it back together would be something that will be splendid. And if you'd like to add something more on what other places that you would like to see something similar done, please feel free to do so. We're having a new Ram Mandir coming up, again I think in Nagara architecture. So hopefully, this is not too much of an effort for those who want to set their mind at it and get it going.
Well, just to add a few things to what you already mentioned. First of all, Ajanta Ellora are much earlier.
I see.
They are in the first millennium. And these great temples that Nagaswamy ji, whom I've had the pleasure of meeting, and in fact being at the same panel once upon a time, a couple of years ago, was speaking of great temples that came up a bit later. Now, what KK Muhammad ji has done is amazing. The Bateshwar temple complex, the way it's come up is wonderful. One should not forget that Indian temples are among the world's greatest pieces of architecture. There is nothing like that. These temples are sculptures to monumental proportions, because you look at the Konark Temple itself. When you look at the details, for example, of that wheel of Surya, you'll see such intricate work. Or if you go to the great temples in Gujarat, the giant temples, etc., they are absolutely incredible. So India could be the world's shining jewel in tourism related to the arts, which, according to many experts, is going to be the next big thing later in this century, because as machines do more work and people have more free time, then what do they do? They want to connect back to their past, and not just the past of their own cultures, but to the world past. And India, being such a unique uh, element in this mix for the entire world, we should be able to get tourists from all over. And these are not just tourists who want to see the optics, see the places. Many of them also want to go to the very heart, the logic behind the architecture. Why was it done in such a way? Why are the divinities presented in a particular fashion? Because where is the garbhagriha? Where does the deity sit? And how do the other directions, the dikpals, for example, the lords of the directions, there are 8 of them, how are they related to the larger structure? And in fact, this ultimately goes to the very architecture of the inner space, because the Hindu temple was a representation both of the outer cosmos and the inner cosmos. I think for the last maybe 20, 30 years, a lot of tourists have gone to these great temples to look at the outer cosmos, just the sheer dramatic energy that these temple plans have. But I think at the next level, when people have taken in the sheer power of the outer shape, the next level of tourism, or let's call it pilgrimage by people from all over the world to these temples, would be to see how do they help us discover our own selves, our own inner spaces. And I think that would be a wonderful thing, because really, this is something that I cannot uh, overstress. The Indian civilization, our Sanskriti, is a universal way of looking at the mystery of the world. And our great temples are doorways to it. They are not sectarian, they are for the entire world to celebrate. And I think we should present them in all their beauty. And the Sun Temple, the Shikhar, which has collapsed, it's a small thing. It was there less than 200 years ago. Why can't we go ahead and put it all together very soon?
Absolutely, sir. And while they do the Shikhar, I hope they can also figure out a way to put a sun god inside, Murti inside, that can float. Because nothing would give me more pleasure than see something like that in my lifetime. Because it's an amazing feat. Because a temple was special because the god floated. See, that is one of those akarshak thing, that thing that attracts people to come and watch. Oh my God floats. These are all little things that they may have done. There are other things about temple, the place that they chose to do it, the magnetic energy that came out of it. I mean, we can go on. But thank you very much, Professor Kak, and we'll be back with more such illuminating conversations. And I really look forward to talking to you some more. And once again, thank you very much for agreeing to.
Let me just add a couple
Yes,
of things.
yes,
You mentioned 3 great temples where the Murti floated.
yes,
You didn't mention Multan or Mulistan.
yes, yes, that
According
is
to
correct. That is
historians,
correct.
the Murti there also floated.
Yes.
And there's also a history related to a great temple in Java where we had the same phenomenon. So, yes, why not? Because that will also attract the youth who come there to the mystery of natural forces. You have the inner space, the outer space, but you also have rhythm, the laws of nature, which have their own way.
Yes. Thank you very much, and namaskar.
Namaskar.